What's going on, everybody? It is another MLS Monday by Scarves and Spikes. Tyler here alongside Sydney. We are post MLS season 2024. MLS Cup has happened, and we're on the other side of it.
I feel like I haven't been on MLS Monday in a while. I've been on vacation, traveling, watching, or spending time with family, my fiance's family, my family, past couple of weeks. But good to be back on a Monday. Going to be talking MLS Cup. Not MLS Cup. Well, we'll talk about MLS Cup, but we'll going to be talking MLS with you and all of you out there.
Yeah.
At home.
We have tons to talk about. MLS Cup, part of it. We have a half a day of trades worth to talk about, and some of that involves Atlanta United. Some of that involves
Super draft picks.
So yeah, Philly choosing just not to participate for the next 3 years. New York City coaching rumors, the whole 9 yards. Omar, I'm going to start crying with you, trying, but
we'll let you know when we know.
The moment, I promise, the moment that we can say anything once there is something to say. But man,
yeah,
it is mum on the Atlanta United front.
So far,
yeah.
Big crazy week. Be a crazy week. I feel like scarsandspikes.com, by the way. Follow Atlanta United content on there. Read our Atlanta United content. All kinds of stuff going up. Like, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Helps us out a lot as we look at this man of the show. We're on Blue Sky, Threads, X, the whole 9 yards, Instagram, Facebook, and again, scarsandspikes.com. Look to our store as well. Purchase Scars and Spikes gear.
Absolutely. So I see Jack talking about Drew Year. We're going to dive into that one and a few others. But to start off, Sydney, you and I did a watch along over on the YouTube the other day for MLS Cup. Los Angeles Galaxy, of course, pulling away 2-1 against the Red Bulls. But I guess just now that we've had a couple of days of process, what are your overall thoughts of not just MLS Cup, especially MLS Cup, but also just 2024 as a whole?
No, good. First off, fair play to the Galaxy, of course, with the injury to Ricky Pooch coming in before the game happened. Fair play to them, especially all they've been through as a organization with their former president, Chris Klein, getting the boot. And what's up, Adam? Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah.
Chris Klein getting the boot, and really a supporter protest forcing moves in the front office. And all of a sudden, they come out, make some big moves, paint Solpeck, Pooch last year, and it all comes together for them. They win MLS Cup. So a great season for them. Went unbeaten at Dignity Health Sports Park. Incredible season for them at home. Incredible season altogether. So good on them. Fair play to them for winning. Red Bulls, we talked about it on the watch along, Tyler. Coming up short once again. Hashtag That's So Metro has been the rallying cry of the organization. So close, but yet so far. And once again, that is the case with them again. So good season for both teams. Congratulations to Red Bulls for making the MLS Cup, but congratulations to the Galaxy for winning MLS Cup. And it wraps up a good season. Interesting season, of course. Miami get booted in the first round by Atlanta United, as we all know. But yeah, a really good season, Tyler. And we were talking before the show. Before you know it, 2025 will be here, and it's going to be crazy. It's a big week. Big week. Expansion draft, free agency starting Thursday. So big week ahead.
Yeah.
Looking forward to 2025.
Yeah. And that's the thing, the offseason, thankfully from like an Atlanta United perspective, we're going to have tons to talk about. I mean, you had two things today. You had two pieces of news drop, and we're going to get to the Tyler Wolff thing. But, Dave Tenney coming on and joining as the director of high performance, which is the best name ever, by the way.
I think I saw someone say this. Sounds like a Game of Thrones title.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's replacing Ryan Alexander, who's been with the club, I think, since the very beginning, if I'm not mistaken.
For a while, yeah.
I'm not sure where he's going, but it's one of those things. We talk about the on the field stuff, the off the field stuff, and then of course like the really behind the scenes stuff. And that sports science department is one of those that from the fans has gotten a lot of ire over the past couple of years, especially 2022 when you had all the injuries.
Gosh, don't remind me.
I know, right? A little bit of PTSD there, but this is one of those things. Like the dude's been around the block. He's been in the NBA, he's been in NCAA, but he spent the majority of his time in MLS in some shape, form, or fashion. So that'll be really cool. We'll talk a lot more about that on Wednesday in the actual Atlanta show. But
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, obviously, yes, quick shout to LA Galaxy, because going into that game and really going into the playoffs, there was that kind of thought that it was going to be up to 3 teams, right? Columbus, Miami, and LA Galaxy. It just kind of felt like the top 3.
Yeah.
Well, Atlanta and Red Bulls had some things to say about
They did.
Columbus and Miami. And then it came down to the Galaxy, and it had to be the best team. It had to be them. They were the all around better team throughout the entire season.
Yeah.
And what did I say to Edgar from News Across the Galaxy? I was like, because he was getting worried. He was getting a little freaked out. He's like, it's almost too good to be true. But I was like, the Galaxy, they lost that number 1 seed the last day of the regular season to LAFC.
Incredible decision day.
Crazy decision day. And then they went on to win it. But I was like, just like this one team in 2018 that blew it on decision day, went on to win MLS Cup. So
yeah,
fun season though overall. Just MLS was enjoyable to watch this year.
Yeah,
a little bit of a roller coaster for Atlanta United fans, but it'd be what it be.
And going back to MLS Cup though, again the big storyline was Pooch, who will replace him, and Greg Vanny goes with Gaston Brugman, and what do you know? He's involved in the first goal. Just a tremendous pass to Joseph Paintsil, who I admit hadn't been in the best form of his life for a bit with the Galaxy throughout the season. I mean, he had some moments, obviously, but not in the kind of tailed off in form. And he scores first goal to send Daily Hellsworth Spark into a frenzy. And then moments later, it's 2-0 as Jovic with a terrific run that, again, we talked about it. Cornell probably should have been done a lot better with. So it's 2-0. And credit to the Red Bulls, right? They fought back into it to make it 2-1 a little bit before the half. But it looked like the Galaxy just had that match by the scruff of the neck, right? They were determined that they weren't going to lose that match. And it helped to have the crowd behind them. I mentioned already, they had never lost in Carson in 2024, and that remained the same on Saturday. So a lot of factors going in, probably a little bit more than talent. Galaxy, we already talked about, we're a much more talented team, but they really showed it. And those intangibles really came up to the surface on Saturday as well. So congrats to them. For the Red Bulls, where do you go from here, right? Matt Doyle wrote a piece, MLSsoccer.com, saying, once again, they're one piece away. So what is their technical staff, what does their soccer department look for? Excuse me, if they look to not rebuild, but if they look to add more pieces to this team to get them over the hump, because again, this is a organization that has just come up on the precipice, come up on the cusp so many times, and once again, they're left just a little bit short. So I'm interested to see what moves they make to strengthen their club in the offseason. I don't know if they'll be there at the top of the conference again in 2025. We'll see. But again, it's going to be pretty intriguing out there in Harrison what moves they make. So,
yeah, I think number one on the priority list is you have to get Emil Forsberg some help.
Yeah,
this team is just better when he's on the pitch, and at the end of the day, he can't be the one scoring goals. And to be fair, he wasn't at the end. At the end of the playoffs in an MLS Cup. He came close. That one really, really good, strike that he had, that good opportunity that I think when you first saw it, everybody, and even us on the watch along, were like, it had to be a little bit better. But then when they showed behind the net, I mean, it was a pretty well placed ball. It just squeaked right outside the woodwork. But you got to get him some help. Your defense was okay this year, but they had some moments where they just fell apart. But now you've got, this guy named Jurgen Klopp is directing all of their soccer operations throughout the entire world. So who knows what happens in the offseason? Also, who knows if he's had enough time to settle in or will have enough time to settle in. But still, you got to at least have some optimism looking at that. And then going back to the Galaxy, I mean, I've said it before. We've all said it, but they're a shining example to them to make it as far as they did in the playoffs, and especially not beat Miami. But like the regular season was up and down, and you can't let what happened in the playoffs overshadow this team. Was very up and down for most of the season, and that has to be fixed. But one off season can do it.
Yeah.
I wish we were getting some more rumors about incoming players, but one off season can do it. So you just have to hold out some hope.
Yeah, just real quick before we move on, Red Bulls announced their roster moves just before we came on the air. So Gardinell, who had an option for 2024, was picked up. No surprise there. Lewis Morgan, there's been some conversation about Morgan possibly moving to Europe. But again, just before we came on here, there was some conversation about him signing a new contract with MLS or with the Red Bulls. That's according to Joe Pintorno. I'm sorry. Yeah, Joe Pintorno from AM New York out there in the Tri-State area. He is reporting that a deal is in place, or a deal is about to be in place for Lewis Morgan in the offseason. So that's going to be a big one to watch for them. Morgan with 13 goals, leading scorer for the club in 2024. But yeah, like you said, they need help. Vanzier had a terrific season, 10 assists. I don't want to say terrific. He had a kind of a slow start to the season, but they're going to be looking for fair. No, absolutely. They're going to be looking for more from him. Forsberg, what can he do to build on his 2024? Then you have some pieces. They are not picking up the option of Corey Burke and Aiden O'Connor, who are some role players. So, but no big surprises, no big moves.
Role players, whatever.
Yeah. No, not the kind of rest with Moss, but no big changes for the Red Bulls. But Lewis Morgan, this is the big one, looking like he will sign with the Red Bulls for a little bit longer term, according to Joe Pintorno, and Carlos Gardinell have his option pick up. No surprise. So that's the deal with the Red Bulls, as we speak right now.
Yeah, and Jack saying, to be frank, Red Bulls did really well to get the MLS Cup. Absolutely. But he said, I don't think their team is all that great. And I think so. I think
it's a decent team.
They're decent.
Gardinell won them a lot of matches.
Yeah. I mean, you look at them, but that's the thing. You go back to like how they weren't winning. Really, they were just getting by, and kind of like what Atlanta United did as they went to the playoffs, right? Because Atlanta had the opportunity multiple times to actually clinch a spot and just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But then you get hot whenever it matters, which is the playoffs, and you can find yourself moving up the table. I mean, to think that Atlanta had the season that they had this year, and that's the farthest they've made it in the playoffs since before COVID, is wild. But then you also look at the Red Bulls and consider how long it took them to get back to that point. That's insane.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting offseason for a lot of teams.
Oh,
Red
absolutely.
Bulls, Atlanta, all of them. So
absolutely. So it's a lot of news today, Tyler. Of course, the half-day trade window, but a lot of signings, or a couple of signings that we need to talk about. The big one, Facutaras, or transfer, big one, according to Tom Bogert, looks like he is leaving Orlando City for Palmeiras in Brazil. Club record deal, according to Tom Bogert, is in the offing for them. What are your initial thoughts about that?
I mean, I was when I first saw it, and this is like recent, obviously, like pretty recently before we came on the show. He's your leading goal scorer ever. He's your guy that if the team had a face besides the fans that shout out things like F you, a-hole, on goal kicks.
Every goal kick.
Yeah. He's that guy. So it's got to be a good chunk of change for them to consider making that change. Or we're going to see Orlando make a lot more changes in the offseason that we just kind of don't expect, because when you get rid of a guy like that, that is kind of it's either A, statement that things are really going to change, or B, it's a lot of money. So, I mean, it does kind of surprise me. I think he's earned it. It's not to say that he hasn't earned it, but I think it kind of took me by surprise when I saw it, because he's been their guy really for the season.
for the past 3 years,
Yeah.
and back-to-back 14-goal seasons for him.
Won Open Cup with him.
On an Open Cup last season or a couple seasons ago. Really, going back to that Charlotte series, if he doesn't score, Orlando's out of the playoffs. So it just meant so much to that club, so much to this organization over the past couple of years. Not the best postseason. Only had the 2 goals, but the goals he scored were massive. So I think that's a big move for them. See if they can get it over the line. Of course, we all know what happened with Duncan McGuire last year.
Yeah, dude. Now they don't know how to click a submit button.
Make sure your forms are in order. But
double refresh after the fact just to make sure it went through.
Yeah. But where did Orlando go from here with Torres looking like he's going to go to Brazil? And for a nice chunk of change too. I didn't see the exact number, but again, Tom Bogert saying it's for a club record. So they're going to make a massive return on their investment for Torres. And I don't know how much they bought him for. I'm trying to look it up right now. But I imagine it's going to be a massive massive return for him.
While you're pulling that up.
Huh. So they bought it for $9 million from Peñarol in Uruguay. So I imagine it's going to be like what? It's got to be double digits.
I would have to be. I would be totally shocked if it wasn't at least 12 or 13. I don't know what their club record is.
9.5 for Daryl DK to West Brom.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah. So Tom's saying it's more than 12. That. So definitely double digits.
Has to be 12.
Yeah.
I mean, to get rid of your all-time leading goal scorer, because this puts Orlando in a situation where they need, they're going to need a winger. They really need, like, their midfield is okay, but they need that guy in midfield. And then they need that guy up top, because for all the stuff that Duncan McGuire did last year, he worked his way out of the starting 11 by the end of the season. So, I mean, you're going to need it, and we look at the Atlanta game as something that everybody here can relate to. I mean, they didn't play a great game. They had a dinky goal that went in, and that was the deciding factor. Atlanta just played worse than they did that day. But you really need somebody that's the killer, and Orlando hasn't had that. And I mean, really, I don't know that they've ever had that, because we can go back and look at guys like Nani and people like that, but they've never really had that guy. And Facu Torres was the closest thing to that guy they've ever had.
Yeah. So big off season for them. And I've been taking a look at their roster moves. I don't think there are any big surprises. I know they're talking about bringing back Kyle Smith, who has been with their club for a while. So I think that's the biggest move for them as far as end of season. So just kind of taking a look right now. No major names, but looks like Kyle Smith will be out of contract. Felipe Martins will be out of contract end of the season. So they're talking to Smith, looking to bring him back, but again, much bigger names, much bigger additions they need to make to their attack, right? To be not just what they were this season, but much better. This is a club that they've won the MLS, or they've won the Open Cup. To date, that's their only trophy. They want more. They want to be one of the elite clubs in MLS. And I think outside of a slow start, they were mostly that in 2024. But sort of to some extent like the Red Bulls, what's the next step? How do they move forward? How does that front office move the team forward and get them playing to the best of their ability? Who do they bring in? So it's going to be pretty intriguing to watch as far as how things play out in Orlando, I think. But that was one of the big stories that came out. Tom Bogert reporting that really not just before he came out, but a few hours before he came out. So,
yeah. So I think you might have the source on this one pulled up. Emilio and everybody, I see what y'all are saying about Atlanta. Trust me, we're going to dive into all that on Wednesday.
Yeah. Plenty to talk about Wednesday.
100%. There's going to be plenty to talk about on Wednesday. But one of the other things that popped up 2 or 3 days ago was possibly Jim Curtin to not Atlanta, but New York City. So
people are freaking out over that.
What do you think?
I don't know. I don't see him as a New York guy, to be honest with you. He's Philly, born and raised in Philly. That's his club, right? You know.
Yeah.
Now here he goes to New York. Well, it's not confirmed, but potentially to New York. I'm surprised they got fired, or I'm surprised that Nick Cushing got fired. By the way,
Are you?
I'm really surprised. You're not? You weren't?
No.
No.
They had a terrible start to this season.
Yeah,
And he
but
was on the hot seat 100% in the beginning. And I
well, I
just
get
think,
that.
I just think what like it, because to me, like it was a solid run of form, but it wasn't a mind changing run of form for me
Right.
to do what they did. I mean, it was, look, they got it right, but man, I'm always going to have like an asterisk next to New York City, just in the sense that like until they have this freaking stadium built and you're playing on a halfway normal size soccer pitch, like, and that's not knocking what they've done, but
Yeah.
I think a lot of like that is home field advantage in its rawest form,
Yeah.
and they have it.
Okay.
And I think they win games there that they probably shouldn't win just because that's their home and they're used to playing on it. And I mean, look, take home field advantage where you can get it, but I don't know that you can give a lot of credit to Nick Cushing for that. I think short of him doing something phenomenal in the playoffs, I think his job was kind of done.
Yeah,
In my opinion.
I guess the big question you ask is, who do you bring in that can be better? Now, granted, absolutely, I think that Jim Curtin is a better coach than Nick Cushing, but if I'm an NYCFC fan, I'm thinking, well, here's an outsider. And granted, Ronnie Delia was an outsider. I mean, he wasn't in the city football group CFG ecosphere, but Nick Cushing was. He had been with CFG for ages. And are they going to go back to that well again, or do they want to bring an outsider in, quote unquote outsider, but in Jim Curtin? So I think he's a better
Jim. That's the thing.
Yeah, it might not be. I think if it is, I think he's a better coach than Cushing. He definitely has a better track record, a run of success that Cushing has to some extent. Now, granted, they didn't get to where they needed to be. They came, minutes away from MLS Cup in 2022, but he was just handcuffed with the roster, handcuffed with the budget that the front office preferred. And with what he had to work with, he did really good in Philadelphia. Now, ultimately, reality set in, and things got to a point where they just bottomed out to some extent. They had a dreadful 2024, and a big question is, how much are they going to spend in 2024 to get them back to where they need to be in 2025? But I think Curtin will be a little hard done by, or feel a little hard done by being fired. I think if he does go to New York City, it's a much better situation. If nothing more than CFG have they can print money. they're like,
well, that's the thing. That was going to be my point as well. Like they're in a similar boat to Atlanta in the sense that like they have money to throw at a coach, 100%. And I look at some of these head coach jobs that are popping up. Obviously, we have Atlanta, we have New York City, we have Philly. We have, who are the ones I'm missing? St. Louis, right?
St. Louis still looking, but they're close, it looks like.
Yeah, but I think to me, it kind of signifies maybe a little bit of a change with some of these ownership groups that care and want to spend money.
Yeah.
That being close is just not good enough anymore. And I mean, I hope that's what the vibe is, because it needs to be better. The managers can't be recycled over and over and over again throughout MLS. And I mean, I'll go hopefully a long, long time from now to my grave saying that like the day that MLS finally breaks out of recycling managers over and over again will be the day that this league like really hits it big time, because it just, ideas can only take you so far.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the same things over and over again with just different players. So
yeah,
I don't know.
And I don't know if a lot of teams recycle coaches. I mean, you look at Swanee, Kansas City, where Peter Vermees has been there forever. But just take a look at St. Louis. St. Louis, by the way, they did hire Olaf Melberg, former manager in his native Sweden. So they did hire him. But you look at the list, I mean, you don't see a lot of recycling. I think Phil Neville certainly is a coach that you can count toward that. Ben Olsen, Chris Armas. But you see a number of these coaches, and I don't know if it's kind of a cause and effect kind of thing, but a lot of these coaches are tied to the U.S. soccer system. Greg Berhalter, of course, Chris Armas, Ben Olsen, former U.S. national player, Steve Cherundolo, tremendous success with the U.S. men's national team. I don't know if you call him like recycled because he had plenty of experience in Germany. Caleb Porter certainly sort of quote unquote recycled, but then people like Schwartz in Red Bulls, Brian Spencer to a little extent, well, who's been there forever. So I don't know if you see a lot of recycling. It's kind of half and half, but I have seen some conversation on social media, sort of what you're saying. MLS needs to kind of think outside the box of who they want to hire to advance their teams. And prime example is Wilfred Nancy. He came into Montreal. He was with their academy, promoted to head coach, and of course has had success. Pretty much the gold standard of coaches in the league right now. You don't necessarily need to find that next Wilfred Nancy, but at the same time, if you can find a coach that has had a track record of success in this league like Curtin, certainly hire him, but I don't think it's the same list like the NFL where you see like the same 5, 6, 10 names bouncing from team to team, So
Yeah,
could be better, could be worse though.
yeah, and I know, like I see, like Tommy saying, every league recycles, which is 100% true. But I mean, you go back and look at
NHL, certainly.
you go back and look at the last decade, right? Most recently, you had kind of like the big change was Nancy coming in, and it goes back to his time at Montreal. Like, you got to give him credit, and I've said it on our show before. He should have won Coach of the Year a long time ago.
Yeah,
but he comes in, and it's not that he's bringing some like extravagantly different brand of soccer that's never been seen before to MLS, but he's bringing a very disciplined form of something that we have seen before, and he got it to work because of his discipline, because of his leadership. Before that, who did you have? Atlanta United and Tata Martino bringing in totally different viewpoint than anything MLS had ever seen before, consistently at that point, and having the players to make it work. And it took the league by surprise. Go before that, then you have the Seattle era when Schmetzer took over, and he's having guys that he was able to build chemistry with. So maybe they weren't the big superstars, but they all worked well together. And it's just those little changes in the way that kind of like newer coaches coming into the league, whether it's from outside or moving up. I just think you need some guys, which is why I was so excited about Pineda, to be honest, when he got here, because I was like, all right, man, maybe this is going to be that guy, that different viewpoint that Atlanta needed. And it didn't work out in the way that we wanted it to. But I think that's kind of what you have to shoot for, just something different. And like, look, I know Bruce Arena. We'll talk about him in a second. This would be a good segue. But Bruce Arena, man, like, he's been around the block. The dude's a coaching legend. Absolutely.
He was.
Do I want him in Atlanta? No, I don't, because we know what he does. We've seen it before a million times. Watch him go win freaking MLS Cup.
Real quick before we move on, do you think Curtin goes to NYCFC? Yes or no?
No.
Me neither.
I don't think so.
I don't see it. I think it's probably just his agent trying to plant something or something like that. But yeah, I don't see it either.
Or maybe there was a conversation, just like how Atlanta tried to have, and maybe that's kind of where some of the smoke and fire is coming from. But I just don't think it happens.
So speaking of Bruce Arena, we can kind of transition to our next segment talking about trades. And Bruce is already at work in San Jose, taking advantage of the half-day trade window. So it was kind of quiet, as is often is. We saw a couple of teams trade international slots for GAM here and there. But there are two big deals, Tyler, that we want to talk about. The first is a 3-player deal. San Jose getting Dave Romney in Harks, Mark Henrique from the Revs, Rev sending or San Jose sending back $250,000, 2025 GAM, 2026 GAM, and at an international roster slot. So Bruce Arena bringing in a few of his guys to help with the rebuild in San Jose. So I'm sure we'll see a little bit more of that. Bruce Arena, of course, not just the head coach, but the sporting director out there in San Jose. He's going to continue to put his mark on the team and bring in guys that he knows and trusts to help them. Because, Tyler, this team has been down for a while.
Just a little bit.
Probably can blame their owner as well for that. But, yeah, Arena bringing in, again, his guys, a few of his guys, Romney Harks, veteran guys who have played for a while in MLS, and now they're going to San Jose. And then the other big one, Chido Awaziem and Ian Murphy, they're moving from Cincinnati to Colorado for $1 million in GAM in add-on. So those are kind of the big moves that we saw today. What are your initial thoughts on those?
So for San Jose, for everything I just said about Bruce Arena, I think similar to how I've said this about Tata Martino, I think the sporting director role is what he's going to be able to do best, because you know what you're getting out of the guy. And he knows, obviously, all of those players very well. And I think it says something about all three of them that he basically has handpicked them to come over. And there's a lot more that San Jose needs to do to be a legitimate contender in any form of imagination. But I think it's a good first step. They have a lot more steps to go, but I think it's a good first step. And, I want to see that California team do well. I really do. I'm so tired of hearing about Los Angeles, and I'm sure I'll be tired of hearing about San Diego. But I think it's needed. It was a good first step. And then as far as Chido Awaziem and Ian Murphy, it was kind of surprising, just a little bit. But really, the $1 million in GAM plus add-ons, like, that's a chunk of change.
Yeah.
Gray, we're getting to that one.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the one that surprised me too. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of Monopoly money floating around, which kind of makes you think, like, who are you buying down? What do you have in the future? What is Cincinnati? What are they cooking? I'm really, really curious to see, like, the next 2-3 weeks for Cincinnati, because if my feelings are right, then they're going to be bringing in one or two, I think, that could really be game changers.
Yeah. And Cincinnati is another team. They tailed off a lot from 2023 when they won the Shield. So it's going to be intriguing to see what Chris Albright does up there in Cincinnati. How can he get this team back to where they were in 2023? Not just where they were in 2023, but taking that next step, competing for MLS Cup. They didn't do well. Again, not as well as they did in 2023. Certainly didn't do well as they hoped they would in the playoffs. They're just ravaged by injuries. It all just kind of caught up to them. They kind of backed into the postseason, and ultimately their stay in the postseason was short-lived, as we kind of all expected for them. So, what does Chris Albright do to improve this team? And I'm getting with you with $1 million in GAM. There's got to be a big move coming, right? That's a lot of GAM to be just sitting around. Of course, we don't know how much GAM each team has already. That's not made public, but certainly a lot of money to play off, like you said.
$1 million is not something that you get because you're planning on buying a couple of international spots.
Yeah.
Like, that's buying down DP type money.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Who are their DPs, by the way? I'm just kind of looking that up as we go along. I know Miles Robinson is a DP for them. Or I'm sorry, no, he is not. He's not a DP for them.
His contract.
I'm just fact checking myself. It's a high TAM deal, I believe, for Robinson. But I just pulled up TJ Hadibi. TJ Hadibi. I'll get that name right someday. Lucho Acosta, of course, are DPs. So maybe they buy down Hadibi. Hadibi.
Or maybe they got one of those guys. No, maybe they have one coming in that just they're going to have to, or not that they have to because they have the spot, but maybe they just want to drop it down so they give themselves space in the summer.
What do
So
you make of Acosta? He mentioned it could be his last year in Cincinnati. You think he's just saying that, or I know he said it's been a while, but do you think he'll just say that, or I know they're talking to him just to see?
I think it came from a legitimate place. I think he's talented enough to kind of, and I mean, he's also the guy on the team. If you don't have Lucho Acosta, Cincinnati is not Cincinnati.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
To me, maybe there was a little bit of strategy in there and kind of saying like, look, I would be okay with dipping out to go somewhere else. But he's also said before this many times how much he likes being here. And so I think it's one of those kind of calculated moves on his part. Maybe he is asking for a little bit more money. Maybe this is part of that. Maybe $1 million in GAM is to be able to do what they need to do with him and free up some space, do whatever they got to do, renegotiate that. I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, I kind of think we would have heard a little bit more by now if he were on his way out. Yeah. But Cincinnati, they have to know that unless they go and find the guy again to replace him, losing Lucho is going to be
catastrophic.
Awful. Yeah. So
that's a guy you can't replace easily.
Yeah. So I think they've got to give a little bit and hope that they can hang on to him.
I really like this move, by the way, for Colorado, because Ian Murphy, I mean, he's not the oldest. Well, I'll start with Awaziem. Awaziem is a veteran. He's been a professional for a while. Of course, been with Porto and Portugal, bounced around. First year in MLS, made 7 appearances, so maybe he wasn't able to get off the ground as much as he hoped. But hopefully, with a change of scenery for Awaziem, he can improve his play. I mean, he was injured for a part of the season, so hopefully he can kind of fight past those injury concerns and become a strong player for Colorado. Ian Murphy is the big one. Murphy's been with Cincinnati for a while. He just wrapped up his 3rd season there, so I think it's a great signing or a great acquisition for Colorado as they look to improve on what Chris Armas did in 2024. This was a team coming into the season was just dreadful, and Chris Armas came in and got votes for Coach of the Year. He's never going to win it, but he did a tremendous job with this roster, and another intriguing team to watch in the 2025 offseason. What did they do to improve their team? Who did they bring in? What pieces did they add to get back to the top of the Western Conference? So a good start for them, good start for the Rapids, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, they needed, I think, I'm just going to say it, they needed some better center backs. And I mean, Cheeto he definitely fits that box. I just think Colorado is another one of those teams that is in the same boat as a lot of MLS teams this offseason, where it feels like they just pull the right string, not strings, but string, then they could be looking really, really good next year. And, Zach Steffen was never going to be able to do it all by himself. I hate kind of the little bit of a fall off that we've seen of him the past couple of years.
Disappointed.
Yeah, but
he's fallen out of the U.S.
order, out of the pool, like everything. Yeah. I hope. I like the guy. I hope to see him come back strong, but I think it was a good move all around. And then one thing back on the Cincinnati side of it, you got to think what's happening with Badial as well, because I think there was some. I haven't looked at it, so I can't speak to a whole bunch of it, but I think it was his loan didn't get picked up, and so now they're trying to figure out what to do, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he posted a thank you message on his social media earlier. His option has Guzero to claim their purchase option.
Yeah.
So Tom Bogert saying he expects that Badial will be transferred in the winter, and Chris Albert saying, Badial's not coming back. So
there we go. So that $1 million in game is not for him.
Probably. Yeah, we can kind of confirm that for sure. So those were the 2 big trades. There are some other trades.
No, there's one more big one.
We'll we'll get to that in a
Biggest trade
second.
in MLS history.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get that in a second. But bring it to Atlanta. Tyler Wolff being traded to RSL for $50,000 in GAM, and definitely shout out to Tyler. Congratulations on
Friend of the
a
show.
good run. Yeah, friend of the show. Interviewed with us once before. Shout out to Tyler. Congratulations on a move to RSL. Love the kid. Had some good moments with Atlanta. That being said, I don't think he was ever going to really fit the plans of the team moving forward. And that's not his fault. It's just how they shook out. His option was declined. He was going to be a waiver move. He's going to be in the waiver draft since he was uneligible to be a free agent since he's younger than 25. So he's going to go in the waiver draft. But ultimately, Atlanta swinging a trade to him for him to RSL. And ultimately, he signs a contract extension. And looks like he'll be with RSL at least through 2025. I'll hold his rights for 2026, 2027 options. So I think some people were talking about the money that they got for him, $50,000 in GAM. Does seem like kind of a low number, but at least you get a return for him, I think. And now he has the opportunity to get a fresh start with RSL.
Yeah,
So
this kind of felt like one of those where you're doing it. You're doing the right thing by the player.
Yeah.
To your point, I think the way that this team is trying to build and the way that Atlanta kind of has always been, he was going to be tough to be the guy.
Yeah.
But I think Tyler Wolff can be the guy at Salt Lake and when I say the guy, I mean like, a solid starting quite a few games, winger on either side. And is he the fastest guy on the pitch? No, but he's so smart, man. His IQ is so good. He knows where to be. He's gonna be on the back post. He knows when to queue up on counters. And we saw it against was it Red Bulls? That I think it was Red Bulls, that kind of final counter to ice the game at the very end. I mean, I hate to see Tyler Wolff go. I really do. I mean, I like the kid a lot. I really do. But he needs it. His minutes had fallen off massively this year, and I think going to RSL, he's gonna. I think he'll get to a point where he helps that team more than he was ever going to be able to help Atlanta United.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I like it for him.
Real quick, I totally forgot. And going back to Cincinnati real quick, I totally forgot they signed Kevin Denke from the Turkish league. So
yes,
that's a pretty significant move to mention that. But yeah, congrats to Tyler getting the move to RSL. $50,000 in GAM. Another minor move, Tomas Anjera being traded from LA Galaxy to San Diego. $200 in GAM, the second round pick. So a pretty sizable return for him.
Not $200.
$200,000.
That would be the best one ever.
Yeah. His father, by the way, is Juan Pablo Angel, former Red Bull player. So a little bit of a minor move. He played 5 games for LAFC, but he is on his way down I-5 to San Diego. $200,000 in GAM. The second round pick going to LAFC for Tomas Angel. Finally, we got to get the big one, Tyler. You teased it. You talked about it.
So
Colorado, go for it.
Colorado Rapids have acquired every single one of the Philadelphia Union's draft picks for the next 3 seasons for $350,000.
It's like the most MLS trade ever.
It's crazy, dude. Like,
what is the super draft anyway?
Philly's just like, we don't want anything to do with that. We're going to take a vacation every super draft for the next 3 years.
Yeah,
that's crazy to me.
To their credit, and I want to kind of tag. We joke about it. I want to kind of tag off of that because it's something that Don Garber mentioned in the State of the League address on Friday about the draft. He was asked, and I forget who asked him. He said, or they said, "Is the draft going to exist?" Or it was someone from the AP, Ann Peterson from the AP asked, NWSL abolished its draft. Is MLS going to do the same? And Garber said, Essentially, no. But he did recognize that there are a lot of player or roster acquisition means, college, academy, international signings, etc. I think there will be a world eventually where the MLS Super Draft will be completely abolished. I don't think it's going to be in the next couple of years, maybe certainly after 2026, but there's just so many ways to acquire players. Like, why do you need the Super Draft in the first place? Philadelphia arguably has the best academy in MLS, if not the best, top 3 easily.
Which is, I think, what they're banking on with this.
Exactly. So they don't really see much of a need, it looks like, to bring in players through the draft. They have, again, a lot of young players coming through. Kevin Sullivan, one of them, of course. And then they've sent a number of players international. Mark McKenzie, the Brendan
Aaronsons.
Aronson. I don't know why I forgot his name. The Aronson brothers come to mind as well. They just have a rich lifeline, a rich pipeline of talent in the organization. So you can kind of see the reasoning, but again, it's just this weird MLS move. The quirks of MLS
It's
come
a
to
bet,
light once
though.
again.
Like that.
Yeah,
That's
it
the
is.
thing. You can't don't let anybody tell you that it's not a little bit of a gamble,
Yeah,
because
it is.
I think ultimately, I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, at some point, the super draft will become obsolete. But
Yeah.
we were kind of having this discussion a little bit over in our Discord earlier. Go join the Patreon, by the way. Get in our Discord. But for all that MLS and the different clubs, some of them have done to improve their academies over the past, let's say, decade,
Yeah.
none of them are, I think, where they need to be, or where they should at least aspire to be. And
Yeah.
so, like, Philly is by far the closest. I mean, you could put a few of them up there. I think New England's got a pretty good one. Atlanta
Red
has a really
Bulls,
good one. Red
Dallas,
Bulls have a good one.
Atlanta.
Yeah, Dallas. But and then there's some that just don't seem to care at all, which is whatever. But I think until you really bridge that gap to where you consistently have coaches in the youth pipeline that are developing kids at a very young age to then go to academies, and then you have coaches there that are going to just exponentially grow those kids into like world-class soccer players. The super draft is one of those where you're going to get hidden gems, and you're not going to hit on every single one of them. Not even kind of, but you're going to get hidden gems. And
like Orlando drafts very well.
Yeah.
They probably draft as well as any team in the league. So some teams, they do find value in it.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, Atlanta has found plenty of value in it, and still is.
Yeah.
And I just think, part of this goes into a bigger conversation that I'm sure we'll have in the offseason and for a long time to come. But like, U.S. soccer has to do their part to help not just MLS, but to help the sport in this country get to where academies are not 2, 3, 4 years behind by the time the talent gets to them.
Yeah.
U.S. soccer needs coaching to be super accessible, so that, when these kids are 6, 7, 8 years old, they're learning the fundamentals, but they're learning them the right way, not, somebody who doesn't know what they're doing going out there on a Saturday and saying, "Hey, kids, go kick the ball." You need some more buy-in from the whole atmosphere and ecosystem to really get to the point to where something like a super draft could be completely abolished.
Well, college, you need to look at college too. Like, how will that work out of the college ranks, for players who want to latch on to professional teams that way? So it's going to be a big discussion. World Cup is coming up, so I imagine that's being kicked around, no pun intended, by the administration of MLS. You would at least hope it is, though.
Yeah.
But certainly, as I said earlier, this thing is not going to exist in, I'm going to put it at 5 years. I'd be very shocked if we're sitting here 2029 or something like that, 2028 even, and MLS Super Draft is still existing. Be a little surprised just where we stand with the sport right now.
Yeah.
Another big signing, not a trade, but a big signing that we need to talk about, Aaron Long. Aaron Long was rumored to be maybe reunited with Greg Berhalter, his former U.S. men's national national team coach, but does not look to be the case. Gray is going to be so upset if the Super Draft goes away.
I know. Super Draft will outlive us all.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that way too. But
yeah. No, but another one of the big stories that came out today as well, Aaron Log. There's some rumors that he would join Greg Berhalter in Chicago, but Tom McGirt saying that Aaron Log will sign a 3-year extension with the LAFC. Big move for them. Veteran player. Don't need to mention what his accolades are. We already know them. Of course, he's had injury history, but he stayed mostly healthy during his time with LAFC. And good on them for locking him up, signing him for the next while. And looks like he's a California guy, born in Southern California. So it looks like he is set up to end his career in Southern California. Second year with them, 29 or 28 starts with them in 2024. Just done a tremendous job with them and locked in till 2027. And looks like that might be it. He might come back for another year. I don't know, but looks like by all accounts, that could be it for him. Again, that's his home. He's not too far from where he grew up. So makes sense for him to stay where he is and potentially end his career in SoCal.
I think it's a great signing for LA just in general. Now if they can just figure out the other side of the ball and play some soccer that actually makes sense for LAFC, then we'll be having a different conversation. But no, I mean I like it. He's been crucial, and I think he'll continue to be crucial. So that's one of those. Yeah, under the radar maybe a little bit, but it needed to happen.
I think the big thing for him is, can he win MLS Cup? I think that'll be kind of like the crowning achievement for him and his career. And I think he realizes that staying in Southern California is home, staying with LAFC probably gives him the better chance of doing that. Of course, there is the possibility again that he rejoins Berhalter in his project in Chicago, but that's not to be, it looks like. So he'll be staying with LAFC for the next 3 years.
Yeah. Before we hit on the expansion draft / free agency stuff, really quick, Henry brought up a good point. I saw this right before we came on too. Columbus traded an international slot to San Diego for $100,000, which is super low right now, which implies, and I think this is what kind of Tom Bogert said as well, but implies an agreement that maybe San Diego won't take a Columbus player in the expansion draft. And I think it'll be freaking hilarious if they do anyway. But
screw you.
But I mean, burn the bridge, whatever. Like the moment you come into the league, but it is a valid point. Like that, it's very underpriced for right now.
As has been said, international slots don't matter. So maybe, I don't know, we'll see what San Diego does with the international slot. I don't know if it's for Angel. I don't know if he has a green card or not.
I don't know.
But it could be for him. We know, but again, international slots don't matter. You can get those anytime.
Yeah. Dime a dozen.
No, absolutely.
Not really,
but yeah, big week coming up. Expansion draft Wednesday, and then free agency starts Thursday. It's gonna be interesting to see what some of these names, free agent names, end up. And I just wrote down a few. Joseph Martinez, of course, is the big one of interest to Atlanta United fans. Alex Ring, formerly of Austin FC. Ali Bedoya. We want to keep an eye on what Jim Curtin does, because I think wherever Jim Curtin goes, Ali Bedoya is going to go. I think that's a massive possibility. Juan from FC Dallas, veteran MLS player. Sam Jones from Five Strike Finals suggested that Atlanta could sign Juan as a veteran signing. So we'll see if they do that. Latif Blessing, Steve Clark, Ilya Sanchez from LAFC, MLS Cup winner. Another big one, and I've mentioned this before, Raul Ruiz Diaz from Seattle. Does he reunite with Garth Lagerwey in Atlanta? We'll see. And then just a few others.
At this rate, probably.
It wouldn't surprise me. I kind of joked about it on Wednesday during our LA United show, but I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Raul Ruiz Diaz ends up in Atlanta. So we shall see. Johnny Russell leaving Sporting Kansas City, really the heart and soul of that club. Their captain for years. So that's a big departure. Remy Walter, of course, as well from SKC. And then Jackson Ewell, Jeremy Ebobisse, Pedro Santos, some other names to keep an eye on. So that's obviously not the full list, but those are some of the names that caught my eye, as free agency opens up on Wednesday. And that's when you're going to really start to see things come together. I know Atlanta United fans are like, what's going on? Why aren't Atlanta doing anything? I think the pieces are going to really start falling into place once the expansion draft hits, once the free agency starts on Thursday. We're kind of both under the impression, kind of sticking with Atlanta just a little bit, that they could name a head coach this week. We're not going off of any, inside information, but I feel like, this is the week to do it, right? To name a head coach or a technical director / general manager. So at the very least, we have expansion draft and free agency starting up.
Yeah. I think, like, from an Atlanta perspective, there are names in that group that stand out for a lot of reasons. And then, it all ties together because your technical director / sporting director. I thought it was interesting that Garth kind of referred to them as a sporting director as opposed to, like, before it was technical director.
Yeah.
Not that it matters. It's whatever name.
Yeah.
But
tomato.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I think Atlanta is in that position too, and we know Garth. I think he's going to see what the market offers in the free agency group before he says submit on any other potential trade. Because if you go out and you get a guy like a veteran midfielder like Ilie, that kind of solidifies one set of positions, right? Like, you're looking at a striker. Do I think they're going to go look at a guy like Ebobisse? No, but I think they're going to shoot bigger than that. But I mean, it's an option. Huan, is another one. I mean, there's a handful in there that are just guys that have been around the block. We saw what Dax McCarty did. We've seen what guys like Jeff Larenowitz did, Michael Parkhurst. Like, every big, good MLS team needs 2 or 3 of those guys.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be an interesting end of the week. I think the end of the week, for Atlanta fans, I think it's going to be a very interesting end of the week. So we'll see how it plays out. Yeah, it'll start falling pretty quick. So with that,
but those are the big days to watch out for: expansion draft, as we said, in free agency, and then next week waiver stuff and all that, like the much anticipated waiver draft.
always a big time, always a party,
always. And that is December 12th. End of year waivers. The re-entry draft is December 13th, stage 1. So,
and then a little bit after that, about a week after that, we have the super draft. So, all right, we are right at an hour. So, really quick, we'll be back Wednesday for the regular Atlanta show. I'm sure we'll have stuff to talk about then. Y'all come back, join us Wednesday at 7. Go to scarvesandspikes.com. Got articles coming out there pretty much every day. We're still doing player ratings, like reviews from last season. We're obviously coming out with all the news. We'll have stuff going up on Patreon very soon. We are recording something, I believe, on Wednesday to get kind of the whole crew together to talk about this past season and going forward. So if you're on Patreon / Discord, go keep an eye out for that. If you're not, go join it. Patreon.com/scarvesandspikes. Yeah, it's starts at $1.17. Like, it's super cheap. I mean, it helps us a lot. It really does. Like, it keeps the lights on for us to be able to do what we do, especially when StreamYard decides to go up in prices, by the way. Just saying, freaking annoying. So frustrating. Anyway.
They're clearly not sponsoring the show.
No, they're not.
Not anymore.
Definitely not now.
And subscribe, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
Please.
Yes. please like and subscribe. All that helps us out. It really does. It's not just us begging because we're insecure about our own lives and we need people to like our stuff. It's not that. We just it helps us.
We promise it's not.
Promise it's not. No. Y'all go join up on the website, Patreon, like, subscribe, YouTube, the whole 9 yards. We will see you guys back for the Atlanta show on Wednesday.
Expansion draft, baby.
Yeah. Big timing. Bring your drinks. Make it a party. Make it a shindig.
Yeah.
A hoot nanny.
Trying to think of another
Hoedown.
hoedown.
I think I'm out at this point. I was going to say
brain's
tomfoolery, but that's a little different. That's what Tom Bogert
Chaos
does today.
Expansion draft chaos. Hashtag.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Peace, yo.
See ya.